You know, the vision of Lutherans for Life, if we do our mission, our vision is to have every Lutheran congregation upholding the God-given value of human life and influencing society to do the same. Because we live in a society that is really obsessed with death as a solution to the problems of life. I mean, if you think about it, that's what it is. Someone's dealing with a crisis pregnancy, where does society point them for help? To death through abortion. Or someone's dealing with some chronic disease, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, and where is society pointing them? To death of tiny embryos, little boys and little girls, to get their stem cells in order to cure that disease. Or people are dealing with pain and suffering, terminal illness, or just the effects of aging. And more our society is pointing them to death as a solution to their problems through assisted suicide and euthanasia. And because of this constant devaluing of life, we live in a society that's really numb to what's going on, and we don't even realize how much we've devalued life. You have to kind of sit back and look, and people aren't willing to do that. And so at Lutherans for Life, we want to equip our people in the church to be a voice, see, not an angry voice, not a screaming and yelling voice, but an influential voice, a voice that's motivated by the gospel, a voice that's motivated by the love that God has for life and the value that He gives to life through His creating hands. I mean, every life is the work of God's hands. I tell kids when I talk to them, we could all have a tag right in the back of our neck, and our tag would say, handmade by God. And that gives us value. It doesn't matter whether we live in a womb or a petri dish or we're lying in a hospital bed somewhere. We're all handmade by God. So every human life is not only a life created by the hands of God, but it's a life redeemed, purchased, bought back with the hands of God in Christ stretched out on a cross, see. And then every human life is a life God desires to call, you see, into an eternal relationship with Him and to hold that life in His hands. And so it's what God has done that gives value to life. That's what we want to motivate our people, so that these issues are not just societal issues or political issues, they're spiritual issues, and we have something to say about it. So we can be a voice in our society, and that voice is not just a speaking voice, that voice is a doing voice. And sometimes that's where it has to start. You have to reach out and show compassion to that pregnant teenager, to reach out and show compassion to that couple dealing with Alzheimer's, to reach out and show compassion to that family standing around grandma's bedside and wondering about that feeding tube and those kinds of issues and those kinds of questions, to walk alongside of them, motivated by the love of Christ, and to care for them. And then you see, as we're doing the gospel, we are given opportunity to proclaim the gospel and to share where we're coming from, to talk about the value that grandma has there in the nursing home bed, for example, not based on her condition or her ability even to think, but based upon what God has done for her and desires to do for her. So, as I say so frequently, the life issues, they're mission opportunities. It's another mission field for the church to use to share the gospel. And as we do that, as the church does that more and more, then we can start reversing this influence, because unfortunately, right now, our culture is influencing the church, and the church is becoming more like the culture rather than the other way around. And so at Lutherans for Life, we're trying to change that flow of influence so that we become this voice, motivated by the gospel, that will start to influence our society so that they too can understand the God-given value of life. Now, whether they understand it comes from God or not, it's the fact that they start to value life, that they understand at the very least that it has innate, intrinsic value. And from there, as I said, we can move into sharing that source of that value in the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the church has been way too silent on these issues, and it's because of fear. It's because we think they're political, and we're worried about our 501c3 status and all those kinds of silly things. And when we talk to, I get a chance to talk to seminarians all the time. We go to both LCMS Lutheran seminaries, we go to other Lutheran seminaries, any Lutheran seminary that let me in. I talk to the fourth-year guys, the graduating. We give them resources that they can use in their ministry. And we help them understand that because this culture of death is really focusing on destroying what God has made with His hands and redeemed with His hands, that takes these things out of the realm of politics and society, even out of the realms of morality. It places them right down in the middle of our theology, you see. And our theology speaks so powerfully to them. So we want to get the church to understand that and then motivate their people to be voices. And then we can start, I'm convinced of it, we can start influencing society and bring about real change and become a culture of life instead of a culture of death.